Hey guys, happy Woo Wednesdays. I have Wei Houng in the house. I can say we're friends. I've known you for I don't know, 5, 6 years. He is a Sherpa of happiness and human performance optimization coach person. Um, I've been a big fan of his podcast. He has a bunch of podcasts, but my two favorite are Untethered and Prosperous and The Money Story. And you are a true veteran for the podcast game because you've been around forever. And he's super crazy into the science and nature of money and recreating your bad money stories. He is a creator of Prosperity and Breakthrough System, and he is a big lover. How is Kayla doing?
Oh, she's doing great. She's actually lying down here on the floor next to me right now, just
Aw.
chilling. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember you always had her at your office, and she's adorable.
yeah,
And yeah, we know each other through our mutual friend Lauren Weber, who is a realtor, and we used to be in the same networking group.
yes, we were.
Yeah, how have you been?
I've been good. And what's so interesting is that I knew of you peripherally because you were like the go-to millennial wedding photographer that everybody in the South Bay always knew about. And if they
Aw.
and if they couldn't afford you, but they knew about you anyway, and they still referred you. It was an interesting thing. And so when I mentioned to my girlfriend at the time, I was like, "Oh, Chris," I was like, "Oh, I love her work. She does such
Aw.
good photos." I'm like going, "Oh, so you know her? Okay, cool."
Aw. That means so much to me. And we are just talking before we started recording that I'm the way junior because we're all about content, but I think your
Right?
content, yeah, you're a little bit more crazy than me. You have your own sound studio.
I know. I do have my own sound studio. I'm such an audiophile, and, over the years, it was, it's been I mean, I don't I've always been into technology, and, more recently, I think my title has shifted a lot in terms of how I help people. I'm now called, like, the human optimization technologist, and it's about using technology. I'm such a geek, I just got this new Zoom recorder that has 32-bit float. I have this new Tula microphone. I have over 20 microphones. It's ridiculous. But
Really?
yeah, and it's because I love podcasting. I love what it is able to create from a content perspective. I love how easy it is for people to access it. It's just so cool, and yeah, you and I have been I love it, and I saw you shift into the whole content creation space, moving away from this full-time photographer. I was so excited because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be so good."
Aw, thank you. Way and Woo Wednesdays.
Yeah, Wei and
That's
Wu Wentz. Ooh, I like it. That's today.
yeah, that's it. Oh my God. Okay, so what were you like as a kid, and were you always super techie and breakthroughy and
Oh my gosh.
systems and
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. To be honest, I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I think it's been more than 5 years because you didn't have kids yet when we first met,
Oh
and
yeah, it was longer, like 7 years, huh?
yeah, at least, and so it was so I don't know if I've ever told you, but my journey doing what it is today, being fascinated with the human condition and helping people break through their blocks and everything was in junior high. And it was because, in junior high, that's when people start to develop their social groups and their structures, and I didn't get the memo, so, in grade school, we were all friends, and I thought we would still be friends, but then everybody started to click out, right, in
Mm,
junior high, and
mm.
then when that happened, I was like, "Uh-oh," and then I started, like, getting left out, and I had this weird breakfast clubby group of friends that really didn't belong anywhere,
Uh-huh.
and it got to a point where I was just kind of, like, outside looking in and confused about why aren't I friends with all these people anymore, and I started to think that there was something wrong with me. And
Oh.
yeah, and so I think, just being immersed in technology, being born and raised in Silicon Valley, it was really easy, right, to be around that. Plus, my dad's an engineer, and so we were always around some sort of technology, and I guess I had a propensity for it. But then I was also interested in the technology of what makes human beings tick because I was trying to fix myself, and in the process of
Mm.
doing that, I still remember there was a class, where the teacher was, do you remember in class when the teacher would pass out like a little list of topics and you pick a topic to do a report on,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
right? So it
Yeah.
got to me, and you know, they didn't have a very good system back in the day. It was like if you sit on one side of the room, she would have to kind of alternate between which side you start passing out the list.
Uh-huh.
And so this time she passed from the other side of the room, and because of my last name, because they all lined it up, everybody, I was closer to the other side. And then by the time it got to me, it was slim pickings. So I was like, oh. But one of them on there stood out was like hypnosis and mesmerism. I was like, ooh, okay, cool. That could be fun, hypnosis
Oh,
tricks and stuff like that.
uh-huh.
But then when I started to do research on it, I realized it was a real thing. It was a hypnotherapy thing. Mesmer was a real person that they coined mesmerism after. And it was
Mhm.
all about healing, but on a deep unconscious level. It was about digging deep into the human mind, the catacombs of the unconscious mind, to be more precise. And so I went in there and I was just like, oh, I can fix myself. Yay. So it
Wait,
wasn't even
so
about me.
so how old were you?
I was in junior high.
Okay,
I was
that's interesting. Okay, that's a big topic for middle
right.
school. Okay, keep going.
No,
Sorry.
it totally was because I was struggling so hard to fit in that I had already kind of given up and said, okay, maybe I'm just broken and weird. And
Mm.
and I was getting bullied and all kinds of random things, right? Um, and so what happened was I said, "Oh, cool." So I started going into that to try to fix myself so I can fit in with everybody else. Well,
Mhm.
little did I know it just made me weirder because what junior high kid is like going around talking about we communicate on an unconscious level, and then when we talk to it's like great. Now that just made it even worse, right?
I know.
But I
That's
think
so
that's what
funny.
really started off that journey, though.
I think my intellect now is 30 at 37 was like you in like junior high.
So, I mean, everybody has their timing, right? And the beautiful thing about where you're at right now, the world is so much more open to embracing this type of thinking and this type of approach to optimizing ourselves to so that you don't have to go through decades of, figuring things out. You already have like you're literally standing on shoulders of people who have basically died along the way trying to figure it all out, and now you can kind of step into some of the best of the modalities and the techniques that people have to kind of break through their blocks instead of going through what I had to go through.
Okay, so you were like, okay, so you had all these friends like breakfast clubby, like when you're a kid, but then in middle school, you kind of drifted because you thought you were different and you try to do some research why you're different. And then was there a point in time where you just thought, hey, like accepted who you are and kind of went on that journey? Or was there a time where like you accept yourself and then you like surrounded yourself with people like yourself?
Yeah, so that's the sad thing, and this is why I'm so passionate about doing what I'm doing to kind of shorten that timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever got to that point until after college.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people look back, I just recently went to a high school reunion and everybody was so excited. Oh, I can't wait. It's like, I miss
Mm-hmm.
high school. I was like, I don't. But I
Mm-hmm.
went anyway because I figured it was like, the last reunion before people start to hit that age group where people start to die. So I should
Yeah,
say, I should
yeah.
go, I should go and show up and just do a little, have, or re-meet some people. And it was interesting because as I was going there, I was like, I don't know if I even remember really anybody because I was just so
Mm.
off kilter, so to speak, right? Off
Uh-huh.
my center. And yeah, it took a lot. And plus, I was dealing with cultural things. I'm Chinese, and so I'm first generation. So there's a lot of old school Chinese, like thought process and mentalities here in terms of academics. My dad thought all extracurricular activities was a waste of time. My
Oh, wow.
mom understood, like, well, this is how you get into college, right? Because if you're just all academics, it's like, no, wait, it's like that's not enough. But for my dad as a whole, so there's a lot of conflicting messages, and so there was a lot of struggle, yeah, going through that. Not to say that I didn't learn anything, but I think it wasn't until after college, years of just self-sabotaging type of behavior patterns that I finally realized, oh, I think the key is for me to just embrace and accept and embody like my unique nature of self.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So, what was like your money story like growing up and then maybe like after college and then like why are you so obsessed with people's money stories? Like take me back.
Um, yeah, I wasn't necessarily obsessed with it, but I realized that my the Bad Money story that I grew up with, the main one anyway, because there was like a lot of little minions of it, right? But
Uh-huh.
I still have to see the movie, by the way. It's like Gru or whatever. It's like anyway.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So
it.
good.
Oh, you saw it already?
No, but my friend said it was so good. So
Oh, okay, yeah, it's been causing a little bit of mayhem, I think, out there because some kind of a TikToker was saying that every time they come on, create havoc, like Minions, and they actually had to kick people out of the theater because they were creating too much. It was, like, disruptive.
oh,
It was a whole
really?
it was a
Interesting.
whole TikTok trend that they said, "Go into the theaters and dress up, right, like a
Uh-huh.
Minion," and every
Uh-huh.
time the Minion showed up and did something or Gru did said something that you were supposed to get up and just, like, do
Oh,
something
interesting. Yeah.
crazy.
Too interactive. Yeah.
Oh my
Silence is
way
still
too much.
golden.
Yeah, they actually shut down some theaters because of that. It was, like, nuts,
Oh,
but
crazy.
no. But anyway, we totally digressed.
Yeah.
But I think the main bad money story that I had growing up came from, my dad, trying to teach me about money in the best way he could. So, because in our house, it was like a total taboo thing. You don't ask your dad, you don't ask anybody about income or making money or anything like that. My job was to be a student. Who cares about money, right?
Oh, okay.
I wasn't even allowed to get a job because I was supposed to focus on so I had to kinda sneakily do jobs on the side
Oh,
or
interesting.
create little businesses on the side so that my parents wouldn't know. But, so my dad actually realized one day, I think he said, "Oh, I think we should probably teach him about money." And the way he decided to teach me was to get me a credit card. Like, this 13-year-old, like, "Credit card, okay, cool, here." I can't even drive yet, and he's giving me a credit card. And then the only thing that he taught me about it was he gave me all the pack that comes with every credit card to teach you about APR and everything like that, blah, 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 right? And said, "Read all this about the card so you understand the card." And then he says to me, this is his only teaching, "For emergencies only." And he
Okay.
gives it to me, little gold card. I was like, "Oh, okay." Now my 13-year-old perception of what an emergency is vastly different from a 30 some odd year old man, right? His concept of emergency is like, "The house is burning down. Okay, we need to go stay at hotel," type of thing, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was like, "Oh my god, McFarlane Spider-Man just came out, and it's a limited edition, and it's flying off the shelf. I gotta get it quick. If I don't get it, it'll be all gone." So
Yeah.
I was at the comic book shop, and I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta get this. I don't have any cash." And so I took the comics that I wanted to. I went to the register, right? And back then, I mean, this I'll date myself here. Not every place took credit cards, and so I took it to the front desk and then a front table register, and I said, "I'd like to buy this." He goes, "Cash or check?" I'm like, "I don't have a check. I don't have any cash either." I opened up my little Velcro wallet. I was like, "Do you take credit card?" And the guy looks at me and goes, "No." And he looked at me like, "Why does this guy have a credit card?" And he's like this tiny kid. And then I said, "Oh, okay. Can you hold on to it? I'm gonna go get some cash and I'll come back." And he goes, "Well, this just came out today. I can only hold it till the end of the day." I'm like going, "All right, I'll be back." So I left and I was like, "I don't know what to do." But the engineering me early version of engineering, like, how do I figure this out, right? I remember, like, back then, they would actually send the PIN code with the credit card, right, instead of a 2 separate emails, and I was like, "Oh, there's something called a PIN. I think I can go to an ATM," whatever that is. So, I went across the street to a B of A, I was like, "Match the icon." Oh, yeah, the card is the same.
Oh my god.
I put it in, and it was like magic. I was
Wow.
like, "20? Shoot, let's get 100," and then I
Oh
started
my
pulling money,
god.
and if you take cash advance from a card, what happens to the interest rate, right?
Oh my god.
So, all that month, for the next 30 days, it was magical for me. Whatever needed the cash,
Shoot.
I just used that. Well, I didn't get the bill, my dad did.
Oh my god.
And 30 days later, it was, oh, very painful. There was yelling, there was spanking, there was punishment, there was all this stuff that was going on, and my dad
Oh my
was
god.
pissed, and, the old Asian culture, you don't piss off dad. Mom's okay, whatever, you don't piss off dad, right? And then got to a point where all I wanted to do was have it stop. I was just like, "Stop, just stop, I can't," and it got to, like, like Charlie Brown, "Wah, wah, 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 wah," I couldn't even hear anymore.
Uh-huh.
And it did stop. It stopped when my dad, the guy who was actually inflicting a lot of the, proverbial pain, He reached out his hand, he says, "Give me back the card. You're not ready. I'll let you know when you're ready."
Mm.
Side note, I don't think he ever de-rolled himself, and yeah, he never came back and said, "Okay, you're ready now." So he took the card away, and the pain stopped. That was a huge learning. So little Wei learned in that little moment right there,
Uh-huh.
that when it comes to money, Wei gets hurt, and the way to stop that pain is to either give it away or let it be taken from you.
Oh, shoot.
That story was so traumatizing to me from that just one little 30-day event
Uh-huh.
that, unbeknownst to me, it was kicking up in my adult life over and over again, and I had no idea. So I would make, like, 6 figures and it would crash, and I'd make 7 figures and it would crash. I would make all this money, and then all of a sudden, oddly enough, 30 days later, something would happen. And I
Wow.
was like, "What the heck?" And I worked with coaches, and then I got little bits and pieces there, and so all the different learnings I have from all these different workshops, seminars, books, teachers, mentors, coaches, I finally pieced together something that I thought was just unique to me, and I said, "Oh, it's a story." So then I went in there and I was like, and then when I figured, I was like, "Oh, that's what it was? Oh my goodness." So I released it, let it go, and I just went on with my life. Well, I ended up telling this story to one of my clients who was struggling. We were working on the business. I used to be bigger on big business strategy and
Uh-huh.
brand development, all that stuff. And we were hitting some kind of a weird wall, and he just couldn't get past this 80% of his goal. He just something just kept happening.
Uh-huh.
And then we were having a casual conversation after one of our sessions, and he goes, "Do you think that'll work for me? What you did?" I was like, "No, this is my unique, weird, quirky little thing." He goes, "Can we try?" I'm like, "Sure." So we tried it, and it worked. I was like, "Ah, it's a fluke." Then I had
What was
another client.
what was his thing? What was his
So
thing?
so his story was that he didn't so it basically, he didn't deserve it. Like, he was not good enough,
Oh, uh-huh.
right? So he wasn't good enough to break that threshold of making multiple six figures, right? And so who does he think he is to make that kind of money, right? So
Yeah.
unconsciously, that was running underneath, right? And so I was like, "Okay, well, that's cool." But I still didn't think anything of it. The engineer in me is like, "That's not enough proof. That's a fluke too." And so then it happened again,
Uh-huh.
with another one, then again, then again. I was
Wow,
like, "Huh."
you knew you were onto something.
I was like, "Huh." And you know what? The byproduct of that, we got to the goals faster.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh,
Wait,
it's not about strategy,
yeah, it's about
the deeper stuff."
hypnosis. Wait,
Right.
okay, so after, you found out that about yourself,
Uh-huh.
um, like that pain, from the money,
Yeah.
did so what happened? Like, in a nutshell.
So what I did when I identified it, that at least gave me a direction of what I needed to work on. And that was a whole another journey in and of
Okay.
itself, just going to layers and layers of going to that root cause. Because a lot of the work that I do is going, we don't like to like just work with symptomatic stuff, because most of what people are dealing with and they work on is symptomatic. Because if you're consciously aware of it, most of the time it's just the above the soil. You're just cutting the weeds off over and
Yeah,
over
yeah,
again,
uh-huh.
right? That's why affirmations only work if you're
Mm,
able to clear out the root.
mm.
Otherwise, you're just cutting the weeds, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
always have
yeah.
this little thing that I say, affirmations don't work. People are like, "What? Triggered?" I was like, going, but it does work if you get to the root. So when I got to the root, so a lot of the work we do, there's also release techniques that I teach my students and my clients on how to eliminate the charge around the root cause, so you can literally extract it out from your neurology, so that it no longer gets in the way of the decisions that you make when it comes to money or around money.
Yeah,
And
that's why I
really,
told everyone, the viewers and the listeners, you're into the science of money.
yeah, I'm very much so, and also the energy of it, because what happens is this: is when we start to release ourselves from these shackles of bad money stories that leads to chronic self-sabotage patterns, right? We start to realize that money is even more so just a tool. And the more we calibrate on, it's interesting. You and I are part of. Are you part of that Facebook community, the Asian Hustle Network, or something like that?
No,
AHN.
but you could send me it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But what I see a lot in there is some really old, entrenched Asian hustle mentality, which burns people out like nothing else. And so I was in there for a while. I was like, ooh, I don't know. It's like hustle this, do what it takes, right? It's like, yeah, you're gonna burn yourself out. You could do this when you're young now, but trust me, when you get older, you're gonna try to do that and you'll end up hurting yourself and you get stressed out and it's because you're doing it all because of money. And the reason why we have to grind for money because our goal was just to make more money. For what? For ego, to say, I've got this, I've got that, I bought this, I can create this. I mean, last year I got COVID. Was it last year? Yeah, last year I got COVID and I was out for a month because I realized something that even then, even just last year, I had created a lifestyle of myself that was somebody else's desire. And I did it so well that nobody could actually challenge me on it. Right? I was like, "Oh, 3-day work week, 7 figures a year, only need 10 clients. I live by the beach, great." And then I woke up to it midway through my whole COVID experience, realizing, "Oh, I totally called this in to have this moment with myself and realize I had become complacent." Which, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, and this is
Mhm,
me telling you as well, right? Complacency is the kiss of death when it comes to
mhm,
entrepreneurship.
mhm.
Now, there's nothing wrong with complacency, just don't be an entrepreneur
Yeah.
because you'll burn yourself out.
Sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around all this. Okay, so I can't believe that 20 minutes like flew crazy by so fast.
Oh
I'm
my
just
god.
trying to process everything. But it kind of does lead into our hot topic, but tell the listeners and audience about your hot topic and why you chose it.
Well, as a result of that experience, it gave me an opportunity to refine and reevaluate just why I'm here, what I'm doing this
Okay.
for,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
right?
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so why I'm here turned out to be, like, I'm not here for a lifestyle. I'm not here to, like, show social media myself and say, "Look at this. I'm gonna inspire you with my fancy cars and where I live and everything like that." That's not what the inspiration is coming from. I'm here to make an impact on humanity.
Okay.
No, it's not like it's everybody's purpose to be that grandiose and that big, but because of
Mhm.
what I've been able to do thus far, I can see the possibilities with the patented technologies that we use and all these different systems and processes and techniques and 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 technologies that we
Okay.
use that can literally impact. So the hot topic then comes to this is that our whole movement that came out of that, the whole brand is called Untethered and Prosperous. And why that came about was because I was asking the team, our team, and say, "What is it that I do? What is it that we do here?"
Mhm.
And it
Mm.
distilled down to we help people become untethered from a version of themselves that is keeping them from becoming the most prosperous way they can. And everybody's definition of prosperity is different, obviously, right?
Mhm.
And everybody's way of untethering from those unique stories and experiences that I grew up with. And
Mhm.
so there's a concept behind who you are and what you are. And what we've been able to help people do is to discern between those two. So if you want to really kind of honor your true nature of self, which is what we help people do, you want to be able to separate the stories of how you were raised that may go against the nature of you so that then you can then truly embody and take ownership of your natural self, thus being able to create your unique blueprint of success, happiness, and prosperity flow.
Okay, let me try to like recap in my little childish childish language. I'll say so. Untethered kind of is unraveling yourself to the core. So maybe your parents told you you were something, or someone,
Mhm,
a teacher told you something negative about yourself, and you have
mhm.
like these ideas of yourself. But maybe truly that's not who you are, and you have to break down that and kind of figure out who you are, and then in return it's going to
Well,
help you know what you are.
yeah, no, figure out what you are first. So what
Okay,
happens is
okay,
this
what you
yeah.
are.
So when we realize and find out and understand what we are, just like, okay, what kind of car did you end up getting? Did you get a new car? No. Did you?
I have an NX Lexus.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, the new one or
The new one, yeah.
the 450 plus H, the plugin? Did you get the plugin?
I don't think so, but it was like the 2022 version.
Nice. Those are really nice. It's actually kind of the most popular Lexuses anyway. Anyway, so okay, great. So when you got the car, before you even test drove it, you know it's an SUV. You
Uh-huh.
look at it and you know what it's capable of. It can hold space, it could do this and that, whatever the case may be. Would you then expect a Ferrari type of performance out of it? Probably not, right? And so with what we've been able to kind of help people with our patented technology that's, based on science and nature and everything, we've been able to show people finally what kind of vehicle they are so they don't have to try to drive the NX like they're driving Ferrari just because someone else told them that that's how you should drive your car.
Mm. Okay, okay, okay.
And a lot of that, you're right, does happen. For example, when I was growing up, my dad chose my major. He's an engineer, so he thought, okay, great, this kid likes technology. He should be an engineer too. And my dad's very quiet, very reclusive by nature. He likes to be alone. And he was trying to get me to be a wallflower just like him.
Uh-huh.
Well, you know me.
Oh,
There is
uh-huh.
no way that is my natural self.
You're more of an orange flower, if not on the wall.
Right?
Orange.
Like, look at me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a perfect example of what happens. It's not like he wanted to, go against my nature, but he was doing what he knew about himself and thought that's how all men should be or how his son should be. And so what you want to do then to start to forge your own path and have greater ease
Uh-huh.
in creating the lifestyle that you want is by being able to discern what are the who components of you that don't actually align with what you are, like what kind
Okay,
of vehicle you are, right?
okay.
Case in point, I had another client, kid was really struggling, and I had the whole entire family take the assessment, right? And the parents were like a power couple when they were growing up, right? They
Uh-huh.
they did marathons together, like Ironman and races together and stuff like that. And so sure enough, like the father, he was like a Ferrari, he assessed like a Ferrari, and mom was like a Maserati, right? Well, the kid assessed and he came out like a Prius. But they were trying to raise him like a Lamborghini and trying to run him like a Lamborghini, and it was not aligning. And as a
Oh.
result, he was struggling mentally, emotionally, he was burning out as a freshman even in high school. So when I was able to explain this to them and have them shift the way, I mean, it doesn't mean he couldn't be high performance. He still became a 5.0 student, one of the best performers on his sports in the sports teams that he was playing at. So just because you're a priest, it doesn't mean like, okay, you're underperforming. You just
Uh-huh.
perform well in a different way. He was still high performing, but just in his own way. And so that's the
Interesting.
power behind that. And that's why it's so important to untether those limiting beliefs or those things that you've been told to do and been taught to do, but something deep inside says, I don't like doing this, but I'm just doing it because they told me this
Mhm.
is the way I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
The
What
whole
is like what is like one example of like how you find that out? I know it must be some sort of, you said science, but is it like a bunch of questions, or do you like really like, is it like stuff you put
yeah.
in your brain or
Well, prior to the patent assessment that we use, it's like a 10-minute online test. People take it, and it just basically, I tell people all the time, it takes 30 years of just searching and guessing and
uh-huh.
squashes it down to like a 90-minute like results
Yeah.
presentation. It's super
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
But prior to that, yeah, there would be a lot of sessions and just asking questions and probing deep and diving into rabbit holes of thoughts, right? Like if someone says, "Here's my challenge," and I would just go through this process. I created a questioning process called ER protocol, which is called emotional release protocol. And the goal was to help the client get to a root cause. And one of the first questions I'll share that is and it's a question that I would ask over and over again to the point where they're totally annoyed, is how is that a problem? So if someone comes up and says, "Oh my God, I can't stand this person," okay, well, how's that a problem? Well, it's a problem because this and that and blah blah blah, right? Like I had a client that was saying like, this person at work is constantly triggering me because they're talking about politics, they're talking about, they're talking about how crappy their world is and everything like that, and they always kind of criticize my work, and that really kind of chaps my hide, right?
Mhm.
Like that commercial with paste picante sauce. That really chaps my hide. But anyway, and I said, "Okay, great." And he goes, "Great." I was like, "Yeah, because that gives us a starting point." And he goes, "Okay, well, is it? Do you feel like it's out a little bit out of control for you? Do you get overly charged?" He says, "Yeah, I can't focus. It derails me for the rest of the day." I was like, "Yeah, that's not good." So I said, "How is that a problem?" And he goes, "Well," and I was talking about like when that guy criticizes him, which is the biggest piece, right? Well, it's a problem because like who is he to criticize? I was like, well, no, that's not answering the question. How are you making what he's doing a problem? And he goes, "Oh, well, because it means that, you know, he doesn't like my work." Okay, well, how is it a problem he doesn't like your work? It says then it means that I probably have to go back and do more of it. Okay. And how is it a problem you have to go back and do more of it? Then it means that maybe the first time I did it or my thinking of how it's done is wrong. Okay, well, how is it a problem that you're wrong?
Mhm.
Well, and so we kept going with that thread, right? I kept asking questions, and there's an art form to it. There's an artistry behind it, right? Knowing what questions to ask, which rabbit hole to chase, because sometimes you'll go into a dead end. But eventually we got to a point where he said, because then my parents will abandon me and leave me because I'm not good enough.
Oh, shoot.
And I was like going, "Do you see what that guy is simply a metaphorical trigger for a landmine that was already deep within you." And
Oh.
he goes, "Oh, now
Wow.
that you see that, is that true?" I'm like, "No, I love my parents and they love me." It's like, "Okay, but something happened a long time ago
Yeah, yeah.
where you instilled that as a means of survival.
Mm.
And because of that, it is now showing up in random places because it is still lurking underneath as a viable program that is no longer necessary." It's like
Mm.
you upgraded your operating system so many times, but you kept this one program running in there for some inexplicable reason. It's not even supported anymore. But you're
Mm.
trying to run it
Mhm,
and it's like
mhm.
creating errors, right?
Is that the what you are?
So what that then does, it reveals a who component that isn't in alignment with what you are.
Oh, I get it.
So when you let that go, it
Mhm.
stops being in dissonance with what you are. Because at
Mhm.
first he was like, "That doesn't make any sense." Of course not, because that's not what you are. He goes, "Oh, okay. So what do we do?" I said, "We're gonna let it go." And so then we went through some release work and doing all this other stuff, which is like much deeper.
Oh,
Tears were shed, tissues were
yay.
passed out, and then boom, breakthrough.
I get it. So, okay, so Wei like was on the beach making seven figures, working 3 days a week, and COVID happened. So, what car were you like then? And then COVID happened, and you had some like shifts. And then, what car are you now?
Oh, no, the car is the same.
Okay.
The car is the same. It was just like, over the years, it was like a slow thing, and it basically came down to, all those things that was happening was, trying to fit in, trying to be accepted, right?
Mm,
So I'm in
oh,
this
I
world of
see.
entrepreneurship and stuff like that, and because I've let go a lot of the stuff already, it made it even easier to create this high level of fitting in,
Okay,
right?
okay,
And the thing is, I did it in such a way that nobody could challenge it. My coaches didn't challenge, my friends didn't challenge, my peers and colleagues, it's like, "What do you have to complain about?"
okay, okay.
And when I tried to complain about it, it's like, there's something off, right? They're like going, "What are you talking about? Look at your life. You should be grateful." Oh my God. If I can, I am so sick and I became so sick and tired of hearing that
Yeah.
because, and some of you listening to this, and maybe even you, like, when you're in this mode of trying to align yourself with a greater purpose and you've created a great lifestyle along the way, and yet you're still challenging it, those people that come by says, "You should be more grateful. Look at what you have and look what the world doesn't." It's like, I'm not comparing myself to what everybody else is or is not doing.
Uh-huh.
I have a higher standard for why I'm here, and before I leave this planet, I'm going to make that happen. I'm here to make greater impact. That's beyond myself. So it's not about me, right? And so people say, you should be grateful. You should be grateful. I'm like, shut up. I am grateful. Okay. That's not the point, because it's not about me. It's not for me. Right.
So before the COVID shift and you got complacent, it was about you being complacent, but after COVID, you kind of woke up and realized that you wanted to make more impact, and it really wasn't about you or your ego at all. It was about the impact. And from then on you blossomed into something different, right?
Right. I mean, and this has been phased. So this is not the first time this has happened.
Okay.
Right. So there's an up leveling each time, and each time there's a similar cycle that starts to happen. And so I didn't see it as I was doing anything wrong. I was approaching the threshold of the previous chapter. And now, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to move more and more away from gotta build my empire to more like, okay, what is my impact now? What's my legacy? What is my footprint?
So what is it?
Well, the tagline for one of my companies, Human Op, is called Helping Humanity Move Forward Faster. And so
Okay.
that company is going to be designed to be a generational company that even when me, you, our kids are long gone, the goal is to create a kind of like a systematic perpetual machine of growth and self evolution so that it continues to make an impact on humanity. See, this technology that we have is designed, if I could see the pathways, if implemented fully worldwide, could eliminate do a big part in mitigating and maybe even eliminating human conflict as we know it.
Oh
And
shit.
so with that understanding, that's a huge evolutionary leap. And so that's the power of this technology that we have. And it's just a 10-15 minute test. It's like, great. And there's other technology, the other patents we're building on top of that, but that's the core of it. And that's what's so exciting for me. And that's why, we've shifted into becoming human optimization technologists, because we're leveraging technology to expedite our evolution as a whole.
Oh, I feel like I'm interviewing like Elon Musk. I feel so fun. It's so fun. No, it's just to talk about myself for a little bit.
Yeah.
I've been doing the coaching thing for like 2 years ish.
Uh-huh.
But I have, my whole thing was like mastering the sales call, and I had
Hmm.
hired people to do it. And I did it over and over and over again, like for my course. And I have this one call that I recorded, and it was exactly 10 minutes. It's so freaking good. And I'm like, that 10-minute call with like, potential clients was 13 years in the making. And that's kind of like I'm so like proud of myself for that 10-minute call that I get to share with my students because
And you should.
yes,
Yeah.
and just when you said that about the test, it's just like it could be 9 questions, but like the most like life-changing Molly's game, like, you
Hmm.
know, 3 years of therapy for in 3 minutes type of thing, like
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
wrapped in those like
Yeah.
powerful questions. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, because a lot of entrepreneurs go through that journey. They're like that search of how do because Greek philosophers have said it, right? Know thyself, know thyself. There's a whole next step after you know thyself that most people don't really get to because it's been in this ongoing search and journey for humanity as a whole. How do human beings get to know the unique nature of themselves without putting ourselves into buckets, like
Yeah.
3 4 letter buckets or one number bucket, right?
Yeah.
How do we truly honor the unique nature of every human being? So once you get that, the next step is actually knowing yourself is not enough because you also then have to honor yourself.
Mm.
Because a lot of people find out about themselves, but they do nothing about it. They do nothing with it.
How do you honor yourself?
So, for example, when you learn something that may not necessarily be something that you were raised to see or believe or embrace or understand, you have a choice at that point. Now you have a choice. Whereas before, because you didn't know, ignorance is bliss,
Oh,
you had no
uh-huh.
choice but to do it the way everybody else told you how to do it.
Okay.
Society, culture, family, right?
Mm, mhm.
When you have a choice now to honor yourself, you make the best choice, which may not always be the easiest choice,
Mm.
right? I just had this conversation yesterday with another client, and she's realizing she's outgrowing her network of human beings in her world, which includes her family, some of her friends. And she's realizing that she has to start to untether, so to speak, from them. She goes, "That means I'm not friends with them anymore?" "No, you're still friends, you just spend less time."
Mhm, mhm.
And that way you can open up the space for a new set of dynamics that is better suited to honor your unique vehicle of self and growth that you've done over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I remember talking to you 7 years ago, and you were saying similar something about, like, some people you're hanging out with, you had to hang out with them less, and then you're more focused on your volleyball friends and, like,
Mhm,
people that, like, uplift you and people that have, like, high energy, and I went through the same shift with my friends, like, during COVID, and I'm sure that no
mhm.
one's listening to this, but out of those friends, but
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not like you're not friends with them anymore, right? And that's the
yeah,
big
yeah.
misnomer. People think like, "Oh my god, I can't say I'm not friends with you." No, you're friends, but there's different levels of it, right? And so I think back then, I think I even said that, upgrade your network, change your life.
Mhm.
And that's really true. So what you do is, I mean, one way to do it is like take a look at your top 5 people that you spend the most time with. Not
Mhm.
that you consider like my best friend, I don't spend a lot of time with him, but I still call him my best friend. But
Mhm.
my network per se is like the people that I spend the most time with. And you take the top 5 people and you look for how if they fall into one of these categories. 1, they're on the same journey as you and they're going at the pace that you're going. 2, they represent where you are going in life or where you want to go in life, right? Or yeah, I think it's just those 2, actually.
I love it.
Yeah, those top 5.
Yeah, I've been hearing that from my mom since I was, like, a kid, and
Oh,
I
that's amazing.
I've didn't believe it until probably about a couple years ago.
That's fascinating. I wonder what would happen if I was hearing that when I was younger, you know, because I didn't hear that from my parents.
Yeah, 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 I told you my mom's from Nebraska,
I
like,
know, that's great. That's phenomenal.
super
That's pretty
yeah.
good stuff, yeah. Um,
Oh my god, I just wanna, like, you to coach me right now, but we have no time, but we only have about, like, 8, 9 minutes,
uh-huh.
but can we just kinda sum up, like, the hot topic and
Yeah,
maybe some 2 tips to help people, like, in a nutshell, like, know from what you are and then to letting them know who they are?
yeah, absolutely. So here's the interesting thing is that your audience are well, how would you describe your audience? They're mostly what,
Yeah, I
millennial
was just gonna tell you,
entrepreneurs?
photographers and wedding
Uh-huh.
pros.
Okay, what I love about your audience, photographers and wedding pros, because they just the sheer nature of stepping into that vocation and that career goes against the grain of a lot of what are tried and true methodologies. And this is what I love about the world we live in is because the whole social media, YouTube community, all that, they've shown just how you can make money doing pretty much anything. And
Mhm,
so if you can make money doing anything, why choose something to do that you're not into or you're not passionate about?
mhm,
Of
mhm,
course, we meet photographers that get into it because they think someone told them it's lucrative, and they're like, "Okay, cool, I'll go into it."
mhm,
But, so by that nature, going into something that is artistic and, traditionally speaking, so, "Oh, you can't make money doing that," and realizing that you can, requires a lot of, interrupting of old patterns in your system, right?
mhm,
So what I would say is if you want to create a more prosperous lifestyle with grace and ease, first you want to then first define what being prosperous means to you because everybody's different. If you start to say a definition that you heard somewhere or somebody else's definition, I would encourage you to reevaluate. Sit down with yourself and says, and ask yourself, what does it mean to be prosperous? What does it mean to have a prosperous life? Kind of a life by design. If you were to have an open canvas and you no holds bar, nobody's looking at you, it's just you and you, what would your life ideally be like, right? And then from there, you kind of observe like the human being that I am right now, does it fit in that definition, right?
mhm,
And if it doesn't necessarily mean you can't. It might simply mean that there's a conflict between what you are and who you are,
mhm,
right? When we feel that warm, deep, fuzzy, punch in the gut almost feeling whenever we're thinking about what we do for a living, you kind of know you're on the right track, right? You're like, I love what I do, that kind of thing,
mhm,
right? You're
and you know I love
gushing
what
about
I
it.
do, yeah.
right? You gush about it because you're just taking that one shot and you're just like still to this day, you're like, "Oh my god, that was so good."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's kinda like that, and so if when you're still having that and yet you're dealing with challenges and conflict, especially around growing the business, scaling the business, making more money in your business, allowing more money, that's what I like to say, allowing more money flow into your business, not sabotaging yourself, because that's what ends up
Mhm.
happening a lot, then it's about identifying that what versus who, and so to do that, you want to make a list of all the challenges that you think you're having so that you can have more grace with that, like without those challenges you would have more grace and ease in your world, right?
Okay.
So list
Okay.
all those out and
Mhm.
play that game, chase down the rabbit holes of each of those challenges and ask yourself, how is that a problem? What makes that a problem? What does it mean to have that problem in my life, right? And then you start going deep on that, and sometimes kind of like a big rock that you lift up and expose light on the creepy crawlies, sometimes just exposing it to the light will make some of those things just go away. And
Cool.
then what you have left is a very precise focus on what you can untrench, release, and let go so that the true nature of yourself can really step into your unique blueprint path of success, happiness, prosperity, whatever you want to define that to be.
Ooh, I'm so excited to journal today on those questions. Who do you work with or who do you love working with most? And how do you get a heck yes from your ideal client?
Great question. So, you know, this is a constant refinement, right? That as you grow as an entrepreneur, your demographic is going to shift and change, right? So where I am right now, love working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and they're driven by a purpose. They may not even know what that purpose is, but there's a deeper purpose, and they wake up every single day. So I can't put my hand around it just yet, but I know it's there. People who believe that they are the key, the unlocking and unblocking of whatever holds them back or whatever's held them back is the key to that next level growth. And typically, these are entrepreneurs that are pretty seasoned. They're making multiple six figures. They're wanting to go seven, eight, and beyond, but not because they want to make more money. It's because they're looking forward to using that money to further align with their purpose and support the purpose of why they're here. Those are
That's
my favorite people to
cool.
work with.
That's a good answer. What is your woo factor? What is your way factor? What makes you stand out?
Aside from the patented technology that we have,
Yes, exactly
um,
that.
I think the biggest thing with me, I've realized. So some of the things on my LinkedIn, I'm a what we call a fractional CVO, right? Chief Visionary Officer. I found that one of my, I guess, superpowers is the ability to see the pathways to the visions that people have greater and beyond. And I think I may have shared this with you years ago. I found out that I can actually see around what the human potential is in terms of prosperity flow, in terms of what amount of prosperity is actually waiting on the wings, how much money they actually are capable of. And because I am able to see that, it makes it so much easier for me to be a Sherpa and guide these amazing human beings to get to that point. And so, a lot of my students, we get this like 90-minute session to create your blueprint of your purpose, to identify what your purpose is. And it hasn't failed yet. And we sit there for 90 minutes or maybe even two 90-minute sessions. But then if, they get to kind of, we kind of unveil that purpose. And I had one client that was like, she's in her 60s. She goes, "Oh my God, that's it." I was like, "Great, congratulations." She goes, "Yeah, it only took 30, 40, what, 50 years to get here?" I'm like going, "Yeah, but you got there." There are people who leave this planet never knowing what their purpose is or was. And that's the sad
Aw,
thing.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to like wrap my mind around this conversation, but I can't wait to listen to it.
I know it's fun. It's fun. I
It's
mean, I was looking forward to this because it's been so long. You and I haven't caught up, and we used to catch up every once in a while, have coffee and stuff like that. But then you became a busy mommy, and then you started to expand and grow your universe, which I kind of follow from the wings and just kind of like cheer you on from the sidelines.
same
And
to you, yeah.
yeah,
I'm
and
always listening to your stuff, and
oh, that's
I'm
good to
always like,
hear.
"What is Way up to?" And I wish we could yeah. Well, we should hang out with Lauren, but we'll talk about that after the episode.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I haven't seen Lauren in a while either, so she's doing her thing too. I'm following her stuff too, so
Yeah, oh my
that's been
god, go
fun.
us.
Yeah, exactly. Look at us.
God. Okay, so I guess if you could have like lasting advice, this is you probably gave so much advice, but like for wedding pros or creatives, just
Mhm,
kind of
mhm,
maybe stuck in that like making 80K and they can't get out
mhm,
of it, like what would
mhm,
be or six figures, but like how would
mhm.
they get out of it? And then you could tell everyone like where to find you and how to work with you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I see this a lot because I've had people with, like, just under 6 figures working with me. I have people making multiple 6 figures, multiple 7 figures coming into our office, and the most common thing, this is why I love talking about bad money stories, is that it's not because you're not smart enough, you don't have the skills, the work that you do isn't good enough. I mean, the resources that we have and the tools that we have are also amazing. It doesn't mean that you don't have enough business strategy or you're not good at sales. Likely, if you find yourself stuck and wavering, or you hit it and you lose it, and you hit it and you lose it, or you just keep getting, and then something happens, it's almost like a self sabotage pattern. Most likely, there's a bad money story in there. And if you're willing to go deep, right? Starting with those questions, because we use those questions to help people get to the core of what that story is coming from and why it's justified. That's how you can start to break through that threshold. And I'll leave one more thing to kind of chew on when it comes to money, right? The reason why people struggle with quote unquote making money, because we live in a time right now where the utilization money has become far more than just a physical thing, right? Most of us don't carry physical money all the time anymore. It's always electronically depicted through electronic means, right? Like cryptocurrency is like a perfect example of that, right?
Mhm,
Even though the
mhm,
market is like, right now, whatever.
mhm.
What it's really kind of like reminding us that money is just an energy, a form of energy, right? And if we learn from physics in school, energy is neither created nor destroyed. So when we've been cultivated to go out there and utter and say, I need to go make money. That is literally human ego and arrogance at play. Because what are we? Gods? We can't make energy. We can only manage the flow of it. And what makes it so hard is when we go out thinking we have this unconscious percent, we got to go make money. The unconscious mind goes, how do we do that really? And that's why it's a grind. That's why it's a struggle for a lot of people. Every single one of my clients that have had massive breakthroughs to 6, 7, even 8 figures is because they stopped going out to make money. They literally go out to flow, to allow the flow of money, more of it to come into their lives. To do that, of course, you need to eliminate your bad money stories, get to the core of those self sabotage patterns, and then start adopting a different perspective on how money actually works.
Ah, so good. Oh my god. Okay, so that was a lot. So impressed. So tell everyone where to find you and how to work with you.
Well, one of the best ways and easiest ways is to kind of get to know me better. I'm easy to find. You just Google me, but you can go to Untethered and Prosperous. It's all spelled out .com. And from there, you can find all the different resources. You can check out some of the podcasts about what it means to be untethered. We have some amazing guests on there. Some of them are uber super successful. We have a whole queue of maybe a dozen more that hasn't even come out yet, or dozens more rather. And then from there, you can, as we introduce more things into our podcast network, we'll have multiple podcasts, multiple offerings. there's some great opportunities. But the great easiest way is to just reach out. I'm not hard to find. You just Google me, first
Content
way.
king.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Wei. This conversation was crazy. I loved it.
Good. Well, thanks for having me. It was so good to be able to reconnect and chat. I'm really have missed having our conversations.